Hey everyone, today we're going to draw a face again, but this time in a 3/4 view. Now the 3/4 view is considered to be one of the most challenging and trickiest ways to draw a face, but I am here to break those myths and spells for you and show you just the essential geometry that you need to understand and practice in order to get to a structured sketch, which you can then transform into line drawing, which you can then transform into a fully beautifully realistically shaded sketch. So let's get right into it. First things first, we need a model. When you're learning to draw, always work from a reference. This is my model today. Once you have your model selected, make sure to print your image and actually pin it next to your drawing. And before you do anything, take a moment to look at that blank page and actually imagine what your outcome will look like. The first thing we need to do when working from a reference image is mark the top of the head and the bottom of the head. And on my reference image, I don't actually have the top of the head, so I have to freehand complete it. It's not that big of a deal. That will happen. Now that we have the top of the head, we're going to mark this spot and this spot. And this first step for transferring proportions is the most important one. So for this part, it's okay to use a guide. That is the size of our head. That's all we need to know. From here on out, we proceed with our cross method with the vertical line and the eye line. So how do we determine where those go and what is the actual curve of those lines? This is precisely why we always print our reference image and doodle on it first. We have our center of the top of the head and we have our center of the bottom of the chin. Following through the center of the face, through this point on the lips and the middle part between her eyes, we draw a single bowed line. And we draw it loosely and freely. Let your wrist do all the work. You see how far back I'm holding my pencil and how my hand just moves in this round trajectory? That's a natural curve of your wrist. Let it do the work for you. Practice this movement on your reference image and then copy the same movement. Don't try to copy the line. Try to copy the movement. That's your first step towards working like a real artist. And keep those lines fuzzy, 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 fuzzy. We do the same thing for the line of the eyes. Now, how do you know how it curves? Easy. Simply follow that line through the corners of your eyes. If you hit both corners on each eye, you will naturally get that curve. So you don't even have to understand the 3D geometry of the face. Now match the movement on the right again. You don't have to worry about how far these lines go. You just need a basic sketch of where that line of the eyes goes. Oh, and also so that you don't forget all of these steps, I've made you a schematic that you can print out and reference at any point in time. So go ahead and scan that QR code or hit the clickable link in the video description and get your free download, which includes the schematic with every single step numbered. Additionally, you will get my line drawing of the model and you have the reference image as well. Now for this next part, I like to mark up the shape of the skull. Remember that skulls aren't actually perfectly circular. So this isn't the same as the Loomis method. The Loomis method relies on a perfectly drawn circle from which you must remember the position of various geometrical cues. And that doesn't work for freehand drawing when you're just learning how to draw faces, because a single tiny change in the way that your model is presented is going to throw the whole thing off. So all of these rules, all of these steps will change slightly depending on your model. Working with this model, it makes sense to mark up the general shape of the skull, starting with the base of the nose and going around all the way to the ear. There's no reason to complete this circle. Keep your hand loose. Hold your pencil as far back as you humanly can, and that general gentle curve will naturally happen on paper. Remember to keep those lines fuzzy. Adjust, adjust, adjust. Remember that in the Academy, I have an entire course dedicated to a steady hand, offering you all sorts of practice exercises and leading all the way into portraiture. That course is called Steady Hand Mastery, and it's free for everyone. Now that we have the skull established, I like to mark up the circle of the chin. How do we know where to place it? Well, we have the bottom already marked. So from the bottom up, we make a circle. how do we know how big it needs to be? We have our reference image to work from. Not only do we have that, but we marked it up on the reference image, and that gave us muscle memory for the movement that we now need to copy onto the right side of our drawing. That copy and paste exercise is one of the most important things to master in art. All of those questions, how do I know where to place something, or how do I know how big something needs to be? All of that comes down to being able to break down your reference image into its basic shapes, and then being able to copy the basic shapes onto your blank page. And that is exactly how we constructed her entire jaw. We drew it on the reference image, and now we connected it on our blank page. When you get to something like this, check it visually against your reference image and make sure that it actually is starting to look like a human head. The point of sketching this lightly and this vaguely is so that we can keep adjusting things. It's a very fluid process. I like to take the next couple of minutes and actually shape the ear and the hair. When shaping the hair, make sure to not get distracted by individual strands, even though her particular hair is very wispy. And now that we have the head and the hair and it looks something like this, we can go ahead and add the eyeballs. Now, this is the question that everyone's asking. How do I know where to place those eyes? Because it makes a difference. And what I want you to avoid is actual geometry that you're memorizing. The eye needs to be 3/4 ways from here. It needs to be 2/3 from there. None of that will add up in the end. You have to work more intuitively. You have to work from your reference image, and you need to take in her general appearance and her exact turn of the head. Draw more intuitively. Don't rely on measurements. This geometry, it's just a guide. See how I transferred the eyes over? Let's take a look at a different model. Let's take a look at what happens to a face when it actually turns. When a face turns a little bit further this way, suddenly the eye moves. If it turns a little bit this way, suddenly the eye moves again. So you can't rely on a cast in stone placement for that eyeball. What you must do is take in the general proportions on your reference image and try to copy them as closely to what you see on the left to the right. Now, how big do the eyeballs need to be? An easy rule of thumb to remember is get the corners of the eyes and simply connect a circle around them. That's your eyeball. The two eyeballs need to be identical. Now for the nose. The 3/4 view can be tricky because of the nose as well, but remember that no noses were created equal. Each and every one of us is unique in our facial features. Some people have upturned noses, some people have big hooked noses, so it's going to be different every time. That is why you can't rely on something like Loomis or Riley for geometry, and you must work from your reference image. It will save you a lot of time, it will save you a lot of headache. I like to mark up the ball of the nose. Imagine that all of us have a tiny clown nose. Draw just the tip as a circle. This circle should be about the size of each of the eyeballs, and it should go somewhere here. Not exactly on our center line, but with about 2/3 on the left of the center line, about 1/3 on the right. Again, this isn't geometry that's cast in stone. It's simply what I'm seeing on my reference image, and I'm transferring it onto my blank page. And if you want to know more of the science of what goes into the geometry of the face and how to apply it to freehand drawing and every single turn of the head in any direction, and how to draw with light and shadow versus how to draw with line, I teach all of that in my course, The Easy Way to Draw Faces. So make sure to swing by and check that out. I'll drop a link in the video description below. There's probably a link somewhere on the screen. There are 2 ways to join a course. You can either purchase it outright, or you can join as one of my artisans, which is my exclusive student program. This month is dedicated entirely to portraits. So our exclusive artisan webinar will be on the intuitive way to quickly draw faces, and that's happening on August 13th. So if you want to book that, that's going to be available for artisans only. Everyone's always asking me, how do I know where to place the line of the eyebrows? Well, the geometrical rule is you place it just a hair above the eyeballs. You see that space between the top of the eyeballs and my line of the eyebrows? Commit that to memory. Roughly there. But again, it's going to depend on your reference image. Some people have eyebrows set much higher. Some have them set much lower. Don't think of faces as formulas. Think of them as objects that are formed with light and shadow. So where does the eyebrow go? Exactly where it is in our reference image. That's where. Don't overthink it. The biggest mistake that art students make is overthinking the geometry. It's there, you can't deny it, the entire world is based on math, but we shouldn't have to memorize every single step and try to replicate it exactly. The geometry of the mouth remains the same as I taught you in the front-facing view, and that is bringing lines down from the centers of the eyes to where the corners of the mouth are, or rather will be. But here we do have a little bit of a geometrical warp, so we must imagine a schematic on this face and how the vertical line will trace down. I don't like drawing out all of that geometry. I like keeping it in my head. I just follow the lines down to the corners of the mouth on my reference image, and then I copy that same line over. Now that we have the corners of the mouth marked up, we can do the mouth center line, maybe do a quick hash on the top and a quick hash on the bottom. The bottom is easy. It falls directly onto that circle of the chin. And the rest of this is just fun and presentation. Now we work out the details. We can structure the mouth like so. When we dress the eyes, we add the eyelids to our already established eyeballs. Remember when we drew the center line through the corners of the eyes? We have our center line now, we have the eyeballs established, it's like working backwards. Now we add the lids going from the edges of those eyeballs and just connecting the dots. Eyelids on the top, eyelids on the bottom, and then we can add our irises and our pupils. We can draw in the eyelids, we can mark up that lower eyelid, those circles under our eyes. But it's still very important to avoid solid lines. The biggest trap in drawing is students relying too heavily on solid lines. Real artists don't actually work like that. We sketch, we adjust, we sculpt. And then we narrow it down to clean, solid lines. But remember, ultimately, this will be a realistically shaded portrait, so we won't actually see clean outlines. I like to add just a little bit more detail from my reference image to my drawing, and I like to add some basic shading just so that I know how my value is going to be distributed in the end. Now, another very popular question from my students when I teach this is, of course, how do we turn this into this? Theoretically, if you worked very gently and created very pale outlines, you can continue working on this exact image. But I want you to practice roughly. I want you to see those lines. I want you to actually sketch them loosely and get a feel for how your hand moves. That's the exercise. You're training your hand. So when you arrive at something like this, put another sheet of paper over it and trace it. Once you trace your image and you get to something like this, now we can start shading it. When working in grayscale, I prefer to work on toned paper. And my preferred method of teaching light and shadow shading is with black and white charcoal. So if you want to learn how to shade this face realistically in black and white and have it come out like this, simply continue on to this next video popping up on the screen right now, and I'll see you there.